Many thanks to Dr. Joao and Dr. Ario Baldo for the presentations. So we all are invited to the Brazilian Congress of Homeopathy. Thanks a lot. And now we will have to give the space Dra. Lorena Ledesma, who will be the moderator of South America, Ecuador, Mexico, Chile. So welcome, Dra. Lorena Ledesma. Muy buenas tardes a todos, para todo el público parla español hablante. Damos la bienvenida a todos. Agradecemos al doctor Elio Pereira por la organización, al doctor Ario Baldo y al doctor Joao. Sabemos que todos invitados al Congreso.
I think Dr. Marianne cut out. Well, thank you very much for all the explanations from Portugal and Brazil. Now we're going to go to the other part of South America. I want to welcome Dr. Iris von Horsten. She was born and brought up in Germany, but she has lived since the 90s in Chile. La doctora Iris von Horsten nació en Alemania, pero ha estado desde los 90s en Chile. She's a qualified medical doctor from the University of Chile and the Medical School of Hanover, Germany. She has worked for the past 20 years as a practitioner in homeopathy and an active promoter for homeopathy in the public health service, and until recently directed the homeopathy unit of the Santiago's biggest public hospital, San Juan de Dios. La doctora Iris tuvo su degree de doctora en la Universidad de Chile y en la Universidad de Hannover, y ha trabajado los últimos 20 años como una promotora de homeopatía en el servicio de salud pública, y hasta recientemente dirigió la unidad de homeopatía en uno de los hospitales más grandes de Santiago, el Hospital San Juan de Dios. She carries out research and lectures and presents papers on both national and international topics, which include uses of meditation, relaxation techniques, and flower essence therapy. La doctora ha realizado lecturas y ha presentado papeles nacional e internacionalmente en varios tópicos que han incluido meditación, técnicas de relajación y esencias florales. Please welcome Dr. Iris from Chile, who's going to give an explanation. Por favor, demos la bienvenida a la doctora Iris.
Please unmute from your side,
Yes.
Doctor.
Thank you very much, Lorena Ledesma, for the introduction. Just to clarify, I'm a physician from the University of Chile, and I have a PhD from the University in Hanover on homeopathy, in a homeopathic topic. And this topic I will present today because I did the research on the first 3 Krankenjournale, the first 3 books available of the notebooks of Hahnemann, investigating how he developed homeopathy before writing his first organon. So many thanks for being here. I know it's a very different topic than the other topics presented. It's a historic topic and not that acute interested like the COVID and what we do now. But I hope I will contribute with the topic that you can really understand and be found in this and nurture yourself in the spirit of Hahnemann and give you really encourage you to keep doing what you are doing. So I need please that you can that I can share the presentation, if you would please allow me.
Yes, you can share, ma.
Thank you. So I asked if I do this speech in Spanish or in English. I have now presented in Spanish. Because it's the current time for the Spanish time. If I don't know how's the audience, if you more likely, if you want to have it in Spanish or in English, I can do it either way. Dr. Shahi, do you prefer in English or in Spanish?
I think we have an
Dr.
audience
Ailesbury.
of international audience, so you prefer to use English and both. You give a small translation to Spanish in between, the essence of what you are speaking, but there are audience, international audience, so you better speak in English in the majority of time, but you can give a small translation Spanish also.
Okay, thank you. So the topic is Samuel Hahnemann, when he started his clinic, developing the first organon. So he is our master, and in order to do this, I want to give you a little biographic insight of Hahnemann, because I found that actually there are little myths of his life going around, and I was so fortunate to go and read the roots of his infancy. So in the Institute in Stuttgart, the Robert Bosch Stiftung, which is the hugest collection of all the Hahnemann original works. With help of this institute, I made this PhD. So Hahnemann was born 10th of April, as we all know, and we are celebrating today. He is the third son of a painter, de Porcelana, and with his mom, Johanna Christiana Spies. The conditions of the life were quite modest. They were common artisanos, working people. But he was a talented student, and in the basic school where he was going to, one teacher presented him to a school which was just available for the upper class, where all the nobles were going to. And in this school, he, which is this house you can see, there he attended a school the last years, and it was shown that he was very talented. He learned many languages, and he was so impressive in this that even there the teachers gave him the time to study just what he wanted. Yeah, and this is really means a lot when teachers in a noble school say, well, student, you choose what you want to learn. And in his autobiography, he says he started to read less actually, but procure that he really ingest what he have read. So, and then advancing. So he always tried to get the structure in his head first and then keep on reading. So this was, I point this out because I think it's important that we learn how to proceed. It's not many times about the quantity, but in the quality of how we structure our ideas. The slogan of the school was Sapere Aude, which means to have the courage to know. And as I pointed out in the introductional speech, he left the school with work, the valediction work, saying thank you to all the teachers by talking about the Creator and his wisdom. And this was was seen in the human hand. And here, so that you can see a little bit of Germany, here's Leipzig. He was born close to Dresden, here, and then went to medical school in Leipzig. There he did not finish, and then he walked to get a better medical education. All this down right here, which is not here anymore, to Vienna. Spent time, a few years there, and then went to Erlangen, where he made his doctorate work, and then he started to marry. He married and have children, and then he basically in this area he moved around a lot till 1810, when he settled down in Leipzig again. And by the way, I was born right here and studied medicine in Hanover first. So he studied medicine first in Leipzig, where he get his money by doing classes in German and French, and also doing work to translate medical work from English to German. But in this time, there was no clinical experience in the medical school in Leipzig. It was all theory. So he walks down, as I mentioned, to Vienna, because he loved the practice, where it was no way to get it in Leipzig. And in Vienna, he starts in the hospital of the for 9 months, and there he gets acquainted with Joseph von Karin, who was the head of the Hospital General and was also the personal doctor of the Emperatrice Maria Teresa. So he got in touch with the best clinician in the German-speaking area at that time. And he says, from this practical genius, the personal Dr. Quarin, I owe him what you can define as Dr. Nee. In this, in my time which I had free of, I was the only one who he allowed to accompany him and to see his private patients. So he learned and get to know also the upper class, which in his future helps him to get acquainted with all the famous people from Europe. He will attend how to do it, how to position himself as a doctor. Then he ran out of money and he started to work as in a library for a baron, Samuel von Bruckenthal, also just doing work as a secretary, and was like the head doctor of, personal head doctor of this noble person. And in this context, he joined Logia Masonica. I don't know how you say it in English. San Andrés de las Tres Hojas Marinas. And this is important because Hahnemann was believed in the creator and the all over existence of life, that there's an order, but he was not bound to some religious schools. And then really he's finished the formal education as a doctor. He went to Erlangen, as I mentioned, in 1779. And there he made his thesis, his doctoral thesis about epilepsy. And August 10th, in the same year, he finished as a doctor. And in this time, just to mention it, he gets in touch with China because he had a recurrent fever. And he started to take 6 little parts, which is about 20 grams of quinine to get rid of this recurrent fever. So this small little thing is important to see that everything is like constructed. This is not an accident that he finally makes this proof with the quinine, which is so good known to each other, to all of us, in the context of the founding the law of similar law. So then he becomes the medical doctor in Gorman, and then he gets married to Johanna Henrietta Leopoldina, and they stayed married almost 48 years. They have 11 children, and 8 of them grew up to the adult age. 3 of them died before them. And the marriage ends by her passing away from Johanna. And then in 1784, he makes his first publication, his first work. And there, what is here important, that he prefers to be a veterinarian, because they have more experience. The veterinarians know so much more because than all the other doctors, because they really do all the treatments based on experience. There's something very important in this. In the human medical field at this time, they just made theoretical works and thinking that this would be somehow a foundation, and people died. But on the other hand, a veterinarian could not let die a cow because that would mean the death of an entire family. So they were very aware that the cow has to live, and they studied with the experience. And this is what Hahnemann observed, and he valued this. So nobody ever made sangrias, letting blood out of a cow to cure it from an infection. But in this time, the conventional medicine was doing this. In order to cure a pneumonia, you drained the patient of 200 to 500 milliliters of blood every day, 3 days in a row. So, and at the 4th day, the patient died, which for us today is no surprise, but at this time, it was the standard treatment. And here it is important to see that Hahnemann always looked toward the experience, what really works. And not just of, I think it has to be. He was not a dogmatic person, not at all. Although in many ways he is portrayed in this way. So after this, he, in this first publication, he has a really critical discussion on the medicine. He says you should not do or the typical treatments of letting out blood or purgings or perspiration. And he really says it's just commercial work, which you do all with this medical prescriptions, which is really below the spirit of being a doctor. After that, he develops himself in other fields of science and medicine. Especially, he studies forensic medicine, where he found how to discover that a person was killed by overdoses by arsenico. And surprisingly, this test was used till the 20th century. So it really worked well and was recognized. He studied chemistry, pharmaceutica. Also, he looked on the social context that the carbon combustion can really be a problem for the health of the people, and you have to find a way to make it better. And also of the sexual transmissional disease, especially of syphilis, where he developed Mercurius Hahnemanni solubilis. And there he starts already with this logic that everyone knew that mercury will help to get rid of the syphilis. But the way to find the dosage was when the person had intoxicational symptoms of mercury. So Hahnemann said, I have to get a more intimate way to get mercury in touch with the structure of the human body so that it can do its work, but without the toxic impact. This is the way, in this logic, he started already 1789, 90, 91, to find new pharmaceutical ways of get a body to respond without toxicity. And he writes the standard book for a pharmaceutical book for all the German-speaking area. So the spirit here is you have to verify in yourself what's really happening. You cannot believe what other people say. You have to see it and verify it for yourself. This is one of the columns of his understanding of how you have to work as a doctor. And in this period of time, he says that he really stops attending patient because it was more expensive for him to attend the patient the way he was thinking he has to be, and the patient was not very grateful because the culture was, I want a prescription with many ingredients and get healthy right away. And then he really reaffirmed the similar principle from which he knew from all his lectures from Hippocrates. He was very good at Greek. He has read Hippocrates, So he knew what Hippocrates said, and that there were two laws of cure, by the contrarius and by the similar law. And by translating the Materia Medica de Cullen, he finally publishes actually what he was already searching for. It is not that it was just one enlightenment moment, as it is normally placed, but it's a process of many steps which went before this, where he really pronounced the theory about why the quinine cures the malaria. And there Hahnemann makes the proof within himself, and then he gets the symptoms of the malaria. And there he says that he takes about 3.65 grams of the quinine 2 times a day, and then gets all the symptoms of the malaria. So there he reaffirms this law of the similar. The law of similar, 1790, is considered as the year of discovery of the fundamental homeopathic law, which we can commemorate hopefully in 9 years altogether again. So from then on, he travels around. In one point, he gets a work as in a sanatorium which was for nobles who have mental health issues. Finally, just one patient was admitted to there, and with this patient, he starts to do really homeopathic research. This is all a preparational phase before founding homeopathy, where he writes a lot, what he does with the pharmacy, and also sees that in 1796, he first time writes down in a publication, Similia similibus, that this is the way how you can heal from a disease. And the year afterwards, he vigorously says you should not use more than one substance at a time, because you cannot tell which substance does which effect. So the more they are mixed, the more obscure is our pharmacology. So we have to do it the pure way, with one intervention at a time. He is not exempted from scandals. There was one with Borax, because you have to think he has a growing family and also needs to earn money and feed all the. So he tries to sell a new salt, which finally turned out Borax. But when he was discovered, he said, "All right, I was wrong. Please forgive me." And then he also says you should take a secret substance for the prevention of scarlet fever. The prevention of scarlet fever, this was a huge concept. People bought it, but it was also a scandal, but because Hahnemann was not willing to say what substance it was. We know it was belladonna. And he, in that time, started to use diluted belladonna in the diluted way. But he got more and more an outsider in the medical work. And with the belladonna in 1801, he uses for the first time an intimate solution, as he called it. It is 1 in 25 million grain for a drop. This solution is what he used. And writes a text about the small little doses and in general, and belladonna particularly. And the intimate solution afterwards he will call potency, as we know now as the dynamics of homeopathy. Another thing which was evolutionary in Hahnemann, which we don't really appreciate, he, with the spirit of to verify every observation, he keeps track of his patients. This was something new, which for us is obvious. At that time, doctors didn't have medical records of their patient. The patient came in, they examined, did whatever they do, gave a prescription and went out and bye. Hahnemann, with the spirit of research, start to write down, and this is what you call Krankenjournale. He writes down in a chronological way. So each day there comes the patient in, there you have the name, writes down the symptoms, and here you see some page numbers, which means that in this book, in the pages 1, 2, 3, 4, the same patient has been. He also takes a little bit of track with patient's name on the back and puts down the pages so that he could reconstruct the medical record of each person. But the writing down was chronological in this time. And this is Hahnemann's handwriting. So my doctoral thesis, my PhD, was on this time, 1801 to 1803, which are the first three available books from Hahnemann's work. The D1 is unavailable. It has not been found. There are rumors that Melanie has taken it away. The other ones are all intact and in the Instituto, Robert Bosch Institute in Stuttgart, Germany. So in this time, what you can see that Hahnemann did not have a method for the dilution of the remedies. He takes different solutions for each substance, for each remedy. For example, in the book of D3, there comes in a woman, 29 years old. She was angry, had a headache and a stomach pain. And the headache gets worse by opening the eyes, and it seems like that she was going to fall, and the headaches improves by lying down. So he writes down this prescription number 1, then this prescription with pulsatilla, the second prescription with chamomilla and nux vomica. So let me clarify what this means. This means that the number 1 has 1 drop of 18 million parts in 1 grain of pulsatilla, which you put in 6 ounces of liquid. Yeah. This was the first prescription. Then the second one was this dilution, 38,400 million parts in 8 ounces. And the third one, 1 drop of 20 million of a grain of nux vomica, but it was not signed with how much liquid the patient was receiving this. So you see, at that time, he developed a scale, a potency scale for each substance, which actually makes a lot of sense that you would like to do this, because each substance is individual. But finally, Hahnemann, the years afterwards, gets just to the decimal and centimal potencies to make it easier, because there are so many aspects of doing things individualized, that he restrains himself of not doing an individualizational scale for the substance. That's why it's now unified. But in his beginning, it was this way. Another aspect which is interesting, he had also a way of take the pulsatilla one day, 3 days afterwards, another time, the 6th day, the 9th day. But for chamomilla, there was another time scale, and for Nux vomica, another time scale. So the intervals of the ingestion also was individualized. And in concrete, in this first period, the remedies which he most used were chamomilla, pulsatilla, and Nux vomica. And chamomilla, he said, this was the remedy for the angry people, or for the anger, as Hahnemann called. He also used placebo, because I think it's not, we don't know, it's a presumption, that he also wanted to know if his own delusion were a placebo or really working, to which extent it. So he made tests on this. And also he gave the remedies, and especially placebos, in different colors, in yellow, red, and blue. This was a way what he abandoned afterwards, but he wanted to see how suggestible were the people if they getting another feedback from the patients if they take something red or blue or yellow. We don't know why he stopped doing this, but in total, I read 3,341 consultations of Hahnemann. Actually, which I could track down and order to patients, were 1,442 consultations. And when you start reading him and seeing in his daily work, there was a constant investigation, but it was mixed by intuition. For example, you have some symptoms which he notes nota bene, which he saw in a patient. And afterwards, you see it in his materia medica as symptoms of proving symptoms. How could Hahnemann distinguish what was a proving symptom or a symptom from the patient? No other way, by intuition, because he actually transferred symptoms from his patients to the materia medica we are using today. This was these nota bene symptoms. Sometimes he also used nota bene for the famous 159 paragraph symptoms. Yeah, the most individual particular symptoms. So these are the most important findings on his practice. There are other aspects of the thesis, of course, but I think this is, for beginning, the most important thing, that you get a feeling of how Hahnemann worked in the construction of homeopathy. The year afterwards, in 1805, he's in Torgau, and writes the first book, The Art of Die Kunst der Heilkunde, which is the work which leads to, in 1810, to the first organon. And he starts doing the Fragmenta, Materia Medica, which was written completely in Latin in the first volume with 27 remedies. In the second one, he starts to order in the second volume the symptoms in alphabetical order, and then the remedies. So he starts already at that time developing the first repertory in a different order than we use it today, but this match was already done by him. He was in Togo, and there he writes the book, The Medicine of Experience, Heilkunde der Erfahrung. And there he states that the medical science is a science of experience, which is dedicated to eliminate diseases with external helps. And the knowledge of the disease, the knowledge of your resources, and the knowledge of their application, this is what it makes medical science. So this is, you see, this is the language of the organon already. Then in 1807, he really forms for the first time the term homeopathy, is que tenga homion pathos, the tendency to provoke similar suffering. And then he, in 1810, he writes the first organon, where he states the four fundaments of homeopathy: the law of similar, the proof in human being, the dynamization of the substances, and just one remedy at a time. Then he starts in Leipzig, and there he writes the Materia Pura, now in German, and he makes the investigation of the dynamization, and there he talks about mercurio, how you get a metal out of the metal state and get it really into a solution. So, and then 9 years later, he has a lot of fights with all the pharmaceutical people because he demands that the doctor himself has to prepare the medicine. And this is, of course, because it was the only way that he could make sure that his new preparation of the pharmacy would be really as he stated. And then he has to leave Leipzig and went to Köthen. And there starts a huge expansion in the European continent of the homeopathy, and famous people start to consult him, like here the consultation of Paganini, the famous violinist, with Hahnemann. And then in 1828 he starts with the chronic disease and the miasma theory, and which starts a new polemic, which has not stopped till now. And the expansion goes again, as we heard today in the inaugural speech, with the cholera. The pandemic of the cholera was a huge impulse for the homeopathic medicine, where they used alcanfor, copper, veratum album, bryonia, rustox, basically. And the numbers we have from the time is that from the 20,000 patients in allopathic treatment, 50% died, and from the 1,557 patients in homeopathic treatment, just 6% died. So that should give us hope that we can do, again, something important with homeopathy in our times. And then he starts a new life. His wife dies, and 5 years later, he marries Mélanie de Herville-Goyer, who just were 35 years old, and they go to Paris, and he starts working in a private practice again, writes the 6th edition of the organon, and develops a new potency scale. And there we see where he is his grave in Paris, and where he died at 88 years old after having a respiratory infection. This is what I wanted to share with you. Maybe there's some time for a little discussion, which I would really like. As you know, I work together with a team, and our team is Estudios Terapéuticos, and you can find us in this website. Many thanks. So if there are questions, you can state it for the chat, and we can discuss it in the final moments. This is my suggestion. Doctora Ledesma.
Sí, por favor, si es que tienen preguntas para la doctora Iris, por favor lo pueden escribir en el chat para que ella los pueda contestar.
Apparently, not many questions. No hay muchas preguntas. Lo que yo quería recalcar, que Hahnemann nunca terminó de investigar y renovarse a sí mismo, y que él utilizó un método combinado con una intuición, y que él seguramente, si estuviera vivo hasta hoy en día, tendríamos harto más ediciones del órgano. Y eso es como el impulso de seguir desarrollando el legado que él nos ha dejado.
Okay, no questions, but comments. So they are saying that everything was very clear and that it's an excellent chat. Oh, I think we have a raised hand, Dr. Elio Pereira. Wait, let me ask them to unmute.
Okay.
There you go.
Thank you very much. Dr. Iris, thank you very much for your conference. It was very interesting, and because you also understand very good the German language, you took to us a lot of things, treasures, I would say, regarding the life of Hahnemann and how he discovered, how he, with his intuition and his method, he constructed homeopathy. Very, very interesting. So I would like to know, have you written this somewhere? Do you have written about the biography of Hahnemann? How we can have more about your conference and the details about it?
There was a project where the Instituto Robert Bosch has published all the Krankenjournale, all his diaries, and the doctoral thesis, which, for example, Ute Fischbach-Sabel, who's radicated now in Barcelona, did on the D5, and my doctoral thesis is published in the Haug Verlag as a book. It's available, but it's not many people have interested in buying it, actually, but it is a published book in the Haug Verlag.
It's written in
German. No, it's in German. So, but I can we can get in touch, and I can, from his biography, I made a Spanish translation, which probably will be easy for you to read, Dr. Pereira.
And how can we, do you have your site or your email in order we can contact you? How can you do it?
In the site, there's my email in the webpage. I write it down here, but in my email is my name, which is very easy, of course. And this is my email.
Okay. Okay. So thank you very much. I'll be very happy to cooperate with you and to have your cooperation in order we can really make this biography of Hahnemann also. I have published with my friend Ariovaldo book of a translation from Dr. Max Teto, a biography of Hahnemann, very complete. So if you would like to know more, the book is called Beyond Geniality of Hahnemann. It was published by Organon, Brazil. So
okay.
And it's very interesting because it's also a biography of Hahnemann, and Dr. Max Teto, which was a French homeopath, very known. Oh yes, you have there. This is a book we have published 20 years ago, in 2001, Dr. Ariovaldo and myself, we published it, and it's an amazing biography of Hahnemann, one of the most complete. So your contribution is certainly very good. So we can do something big in the future, huh?
It's very welcome.
Dr. Ariovaldo is a very endurance person. So we had some troubles, some difficulties, but we made this common work, and now Organon has this biography. We will maintain and be in touch. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Iris, we have two questions, please. The first one, since when did Hahnemann started giving only one medication in his prescriptions?
We don't know before 1801. Probably he started in 1790, just using one substance at a time. But we know it for sure from 1801 on.
Okay, thank you. And then there's another question. Is it homeopathy like a vaccine? I'm not sure what that question, the whole context of it. It's just that Dr. Iris, is it homeopathy like a vaccine?
No, it's not.
I don't know who put this. It's just a phone.
Yeah. No, it's not. Homeopathy is a vibrational medicine which involves the entire biopathography of the human being and helps to strengthen the natural vital force in yourself. So it's not a vaccine.